Okay, we're on the next part here of the Infidel demonstration. And again, if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to interrupt me and get my attention here. Just type into the chat bar in Vassal, and I'll try to help you out as quick as I can. We just finished covering the different types of states that a unit can be in. And what's happened so far in our game is this particular knight has impetuously countercharged, and it has now become meat for the light cavalry archers. So now he's in a real dangerous position. We're going to go ahead and move the next Turkoman archer, and I'm just going to go ahead and move him. I know he's got enough movement points to get here. And this time I'm going to rotate him like so. Let's see. Let's do it like this. And he's going to go ahead and fire at the knights from the flank again. And he throws a die, and this time he throws a 3, which is modified by +1 and -2. So it becomes a 2. And according to the missile fire table, fire results table, if he's in a disordered state, a 2 has no effect. So the knight survives. All right, now the next one comes up, and we'll just go ahead and move one of these guys from the back row up here and try to pile on, take a shot. He rolls a 5, which becomes a 4. Because the same modifiers will apply. And a 4, if the mounted target is already disordered, will cause that unit to become retired. Now here's how retirement works. You buy a motorhome and move to Mesa. Now, here's how retirement works. What you do is you take the unit, and it has to be able to trace a path of hexes that are free of enemy units, free of friendly units, all the way back to his standard. Now, notice this guy is boxed in by enemy zones of control. Zones of control do not inhibit retreats in this game, which is very strange, but they do not inhibit retreats. And it just, it seems strange at first, but it actually works. So, because this guy is not completely surrounded by units, if he was boxed in by friendly infantry or other cavalry, he couldn't get through there. I don't believe, I'd have to double check in the rules, I don't believe that they can trample archers to get out of retirement. I know they can trample archers in order to charge, that sort of thing, but I don't remember if they can do it with a retreat. I'd have to look it up. But in this case, he's not boxed in, so he can actually move back to the standard. And here's what happens. When you are in a retired state, it imparts one retirement point or withdraw point to the state of that army. So if you open the game tracks window in Vassal, the Crusader army is going to have 1 flight point now. Now that particular unit that is retired could be rallied. Here's how you rally units. You rally units that are disordered by doing absolutely nothing with them during an activation, and if they end that activation for that particular formation and nobody is adjacent to them, no enemy units are adjacent to them, then you can flip it over to its disordered side. So if this Turkoman guy, during the next time this formation is activated, if he does absolutely nothing, doesn't move, nothing, during his activation, and nobody's adjacent to him at the end of that activation, he can flip over and come into normal status. Oh, wait a second, I think I just realized where the retirement markers are. Okay, that's weird. There's an R that shows up on the Turkoman dudes, but just not on this on the knights. Okay, so that's how these different states of the units will work and how you can rally them. Doesn't even have to be in an enemy into a friendly command radius. In fact, if you happen to start in an out of command status, there's only a few things you can't do. Let me cover that real quick before I finish talking about rallying. Here's what happens. When you first start your leader's activation, that's when you check for command. You check all your units. If they're all in command, well, that's just jam dandy, no problems. Okay, if any of them are out of command, you just mark them as out of command, and the basic restriction, hold on just a second here. My dog's got a squeaky toy and he's driving me nuts. Here's what you do. If any unit is out of command, that particular unit is not permitted to move next to an enemy unit. If he already starts out of command and he's adjacent to an enemy unit, that's not a problem. But he cannot voluntarily move next to an enemy unit. So let me just summarize this very quickly. The restrictions on a unit that are out of control: they may not move adjacent to an enemy unit, and any foot units that start in an enemy zone of control may not move at all. So those are the restrictions for being out of command. They're pretty benign, in my opinion. All right, so next thing I need to cover is how do you deal with these retired units? Okay, we got this knight that retired. Here's how you would rally him. Let's say that Sakman finishes his activation and wants to continue. He rolls for continuation, so let's just throw a 10-sided die here. Okay, we rolled a 2, so this guy here would have continued and been able to move. But let's roll the die again until we roll too high. Okay, let's say he rolls a 9. Okay, 9's higher than his activation rating of 4, so he fails that. When that happens, the enemy player gets a free activation. Now, a turn free activation means you're going to do two things. Number one, you're going to roll a die, add the number of flight points that you have on the game track to your die roll, and if the final result is higher than your enemy's flight rating, you lose the game. So if you look at the flight points track by opening up that game tracks window, you'll see that for Haran, in the 30 space, it says Crusader flight level. So if you get a free activation, you're the Crusader player, you get a free activation, you roll a die, you modify it by your flight points, and if the result is 30 or higher, you lose the game. If both players roll and lose the game on the same turn, then whoever loses by the greatest amount is considered to be the loser in that particular situation. I forget the other tiebreaker for that, but that's basically how you win or lose the game. Okay, obviously right now that's not even a threat, so you wouldn't even bother rolling. The second thing you do with a free activation is you can activate any formation in your army. You may also activate, in lieu of a formation, you can activate your standard. So in this case, Baldwin could activate his standard, and any of his retired units that are in or adjacent to that standard may then remove the retired marker, at which point they would simply be disorganized. When that happens, you go over to the game tracks again, and you would remove the flight points from those guys because they're no longer retired. So retirement only contributes temporary flight points. Losing units permanently, if a unit is eliminated in the shock combat roll, or if he's shock combat attacked or suffers any kind of hits when he's in a retired state, he'll actually die, be removed from the game permanently. When that happens, those are permanent flight points that will go on the game record track. And the number of flight points that a unit will impart, let me cover that real quick. Let's see, it's in a strange part of the rule book. It's actually at the very, very beginning of the rule book. You'd think it'd be at the end of the rule book. It's actually in section 3.0. But basically, the biggest way to lose flight points is, or actually gain flight points, I should say, is for losing your overall commander. That's 5 flight points. Each eliminated knight or heavy cavalry is 3 flight points. 2 flight points for any other type of mounted unit or named unit. 1 flight point for each eliminated foot unit or retired unit, regardless of its type. So those are your flight points. Now, that begs the question, how in the Sam Hill do you lose your leaders? Well, here's how it works. There's 2 ways to lose them. One is getting shot at in missile combat. Let's say that Baldwin here is stacked with this knight, and he gets missile fired, and the missile fired die roll is an unmodified 9. When that happens, you roll the die again, and if it's another 9, double check, I believe that's right, if it's another 9, then what's going to happen is that leader will die. When the leader dies, he's removed from the game, flight points are assessed, and then, well, doggone it, there's some issues with this vassal module. Oh wait, there it is, replacement. Okay, you can flip in a physical game, you just flip the counter over, and the next time that particular army has a free activation, they may place any replaced leaders onto any unit from that formation. So let's say Baldwin dies. next time Crusaders get a free activation, they can go ahead and take this guy, this replacement leader, and stick him with any of his units that he could command. So he can go with any of these other knights. And if a replacement leader is eliminated, nothing happens. There's no additional flight points for losing a replacement leader. So that is how you lose your leaders from missile fire. In shock combat, if a unit, let's say this knight is shock attack. Now, obviously, it can't happen from light cavalry, but let's say for a moment he is shock attacked by these medium cavalry, which it would take a whole slew of them. So let me set up a situation here. Let's say for a moment that these three units here are going to shock attack. Whoops, wrong marker here. They're going to shock attack that particular Crusader. Let's say he's going to do this. What will happen is you have a 3-on-1 attack. Whenever there's a shock attack situation, you always have to mark who's shock attacking who before you roll any of the dice. So you always mark all this stuff from the get-go. So once you're done with all your movement, you would do this. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and look at the die roll modifiers. Medium cavalry attacking knights incur a -3 die roll modifier. Okay, so it's ugly. So you're going to have to get lucky to take down these knights with shock combat. And usually it takes masses of medium cavalry to do this. Usually, medium cavalry, you really only want to pick on disordered knights. You don't want to take on ordered knights, even from the rear or flank. Because there's a -3 system shock die roll modifier, plus there's a -2 modifier for the defending unit itself. Remember, the modifiers on the counters only apply to the defender. Next, strength advantage. This is a 3-on-1 attack, so you're going to add 3 and subtract 1, so it's a net of +2 more. So you have a +3. Hold on a second, my dog found another squeaky toy. You got a +3, a -2 for the unit itself, and then a +2 for the strength advantage. Now there's a positional advantage modifier. Okay, you actually have units attacking from the flank. Whenever you're attacking from the flank, if all attacking units are attacking through the flank of the defender, it's a +2. If all the attacking units are attacking through the rear, it's a +3. Now here's where combined attacks work. If you're attacking from the front and flank, or the front and the rear, like so, rotate this guy around, like so, then you get a +4 modifier. So because this guy's attacking from the front and the flank, he's going to get a +4, +2, -3, -2. So it's a net of -5 and a net of +6. So the whole thing nets out to be actually +1. If there's any leader with the attackers, there's a +1. The leader with the defender doesn't apply anything. So once we've netted everything out here, it's actually going to be +1 to the attackers. So let's say he rolls a 6. And on the shock combat table, a defending unit that is not disordered will actually become disordered on a die roll of a 6. So we'll flip him over. He becomes disordered. Whoops, wrong marker. He becomes disordered. Now when this happens, you got to take the leader. Any leader stacked with a unit becomes disordered as a result of combat. Then what you got to do is you have to dice. You roll a 10-sided die. And then you subtract the leader's activation rating. So this guy has an activation rating, that's the red number, of 3. So 4 minus 3 becomes a 1. Okay, if the modified die roll is less than or equal to 2, the leader survives. But if it's a 3 or greater, then he's dead. So let's roll a die again here. Let's say he rolls, 5. 5 minus 2 becomes a 3. In this case, he would die. So if he rolled a 5 or greater here, the modifiers would work out such... Well, actually, no, wait, that wouldn't be enough either. I think he has to roll 6. 6 minus 3 would be 3. In that case, he would actually die. And 5 roll-out points would be assessed. And that particular formation would be leaderless until the Crusaders got a free activation, at which point the replacement would come on, whether or not that particular formation was activated. You always put all your replacements on when you get a free activation. So that's shock combat. That's Shock Combat in all of its glory. Let me save the recording here.